right here. This is the Protoss player, Cyan.
And his opponent spawning in the blue. A very old school Zerg, but a very good one. This is XiGua.
Wow, we found we found the freeware industrial. Nice. The Combi Christ B-sides. I like it. Excellent.
Maynard and I have been having a lot of fun with the break music.
Zeph and I are, we're hobbyist musos. We're not professional by any stretch of the imagination, but we are hobbyists. We share bands. Historically, we've been friends for a long time. We share bands. We make fun of bad bands. And as someone that came from a bad band, I feel like I have an expert first-person opinion on a lot of bad bands. And their production, and I just gotta say, guys, these songs we've got in between matches, in the countdown screens and stuff, 10 out of 10 bangers every time. Could not be more happier with the freeware music selections here from ESL Australia.
Top notch. So, what are we gonna see from these players here? Cyan, I think, another Oracle player a little bit. Not sure if that's his go-to strategy every single game. I mean, you mentioned before with the natural block, there is a possibility of Adepts looking a little bit more flavorful in this PVZ.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, the Adept printer is still very, very popular in the West and also in Korea. I wonder if it is as popular on the Chinese server. I mean, we actually haven't really seen it yet, now that I think about it. Have we?
No.
Maybe once.
No, we haven't. I think we've seen just about everything, but maybe in the qualifiers. I feel like someone did it in the qualifiers, but I can't recall who it would have been. I'm sure they do it sometimes, but whether or not it's the go-to strategy is a different thing. But it is a Twilight coming out from Cyan.
Indeed, and this one is looking a little bit more like the the Adept printer. It's looking a little bit like it. You go Stalker after the first Adept, you plug that wall, shoot back the Overlord, and the whole idea here is to make sure that you can get Resonating Glaze without the Zerg knowing all about it. Robotics Facility is also going down here. Now, you could still go Dark Shrine, of course. I actually think that going for the Probe block in the natural and going for the Dark Shrine is still a pretty legit way to play out this this particular opening with the Probe block, because you slowed down creep spread. But oh baby, it's happening. Nice.
Oh baby, a triple. Alrighty, yeah, you might be able to do some damage here. I feel like with the evolution of this strategy, Zergs have gotten better at dealing with it. The whole reason this natural block sort of became a thing was because they were like, well, how do we make this a little bit harder for the Zerg? Because they're starting to figure it out a little bit. But I think even with this, we've seen Zergs adapt, maybe getting a spine at that third base, doing the initial defense with Lings and Queens, and then moving into Roaches afterwards. So we'll see how XiGua deals with it. It is still a very difficult build to deal with, because you've got to keep tabs on where the Adepts currently are and where the Shades are going.
What I'm very worried about here for XiGua is that there is no Roach Warren. So he's going to be trying to deal with a lot of Glaive Adepts with just Lings. Is he making a ton of Lings? Yes, he is. He's getting a Roach Warren right now. I think that if you have a bajillion Lings, you can hold this, but you need a bajillion Lings. No more, no less. I'm not talking a million. I'm not talking a million. I'm not talking a billion. I mean a cajillion is how many you need to hold these Adepts.
Yeah, you need to jump on this first wave. He is getting a Spine Crawl. He's also getting Blind Spores here, worried about maybe a DT follow-up. And so far, so good. Pulls away from that base, and the Queens and Lings deal with that pretty handily. And here comes the Warp Prism now. We'll be able to warp in a few more. It's got 4 friends already on the front lines here. The Lings, however, uh-oh.
Yeah, XiGua's Lings just sneak on in there, and that's very annoying for Cyan to warp in Adepts at home. He wants to be warping them on the front line. And we can see that Cyan's Adept printer phase of this is not really working out for him at all. In fact, another thing to bring up is that when those Adepts first arrived, oh my god, more Lings than natural. He's gonna have to recall the Warp Prism and the Adepts. This is going terribly for Cyan. He needs to plug that hole. More Lings coming across the map. Still nothing in the wall in.
Oh, Maynard, this is going real pear-shaped for Cyan. Not only that, getting into the main, getting to the natural, he also scouts the DT shrine coming up. So even if he wasn't sure about what the follow-up was, he does know now. Of course, he preemptively made those spores. He's now heading into lair. And man, 7 probes killed, but there's a bit of lost mining time in there as well, and the loss of momentum for this attack for Cyan. So he's going to try and make something happen now with the single file adepts that he has here. But there's going to be roaches out this time.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the adepts can certainly just shade around and be very, very annoying. But we have XiGua making a lot of roaches right now on a sub 50 drone economy. The adepts obviously suck against roaches, but I like what Cyan's doing, splitting off the adepts into multiple directions.
Wow, okay. He finishes the shade there, and the roaches are right on top of that. The spine and a couple of units helping out at the third base, where a couple of adepts peeled off too. So far, not getting huge damage. You will always get some drones for going down so far. Might be able to get a few more now, though, as he slips over into this third base full time. And those drones not mining for a second, and more coming into the natural.
Yeah, this drone count is really starting to get pretty nasty here. Cyan doing a ton of damage with the adepts. He needs to make sure that at home he is he's getting his shield batteries up. He's chrono boosting that immortal, because I tell you what, Zeph, there is going to be a big counterattack from XiGua when the dust settles here.
He's actually gone for 9 more drones. Just to replace that, because he lost an entire mineral line worth of saturation from this, and the DTs haven't even joined the party yet. And in come all those 4 right now. He can actually target down the detection with that. However, there are units here in preparation for their arrival, so he's going to maybe have to morph those into Archons and try again. But he's keeping really busy. 10 more worker kills. The game might just end based on this harassment.
I mean, you might be right. The adepts still utilizing the shade ability to just flip around and do insane damage. They have killed 28 workers in total since the start of that game. There's 4 DTs turned into Archons, and now it's Archon Prism time. XiGua has a good cluster of roaches way out on creep here, chasing down those adepts, weirdly enough, and just committing across the map, but they're not going to do a whole lot. There's already multiple immortals out for Cyan.
Oh man, Queen's starting to go down here as well to those Archons. Love the multi-prong harassment here from Cyan. You know, that looked really bad for him for a bit, but the amount of damage he's been able to do to XiGua is unreal here. Now, XiGua is ahead on the drone count, but he's been pumping basically only drones here just to try and recover everything that he loses. He's going to head into the Spire as well, so a scout on that for Cyan would be really nice.
He doesn't quite get that last Overlord, and the Archons are still doing their thing out on the outskirts here. You know, picking off Overlords, denying map vision. It looks like he maybe wants to send that army out, but he's got a whole position of depth that's stopping this this train of units from maybe going to the third base.
Ooh, I like this picking up of the Overlords as well.
I think he's going to commit super hard to Mutas here, Zeph. Like, sometimes you can just get a cluster of Mutmuts. You know, just get like 6 and deal with a Warp Prism with it. But I think it might be more than that. He's banking a lot of gas.
Yeah, he's got the cash money for it now, 66 drones, so if he can just avoid making anything else for a little bit, then he can certainly just plunge all that straight onto the Muta tab. And Cyan is trying to secure that third base. Would have actually liked to see him try and grab that a bit earlier than he did. He's now got that pro production 3 at a time as well, and continuing to clear up the vision.
Well, you know what XiGua did instead with that big bank of gas? Made 15 Ravages.
Yep, that'll do it. Oh, these Queens
the attack
actually
is coming.
Having a hard time against these Archons. Man, Cyan's done some great damage with that War Prism.
Yeah,
and the Adept's still in there.
Cyan needs to call Heimdall right now. He needs to return. Get those Archons back to Asgard, because I tell you what, these Ravages are not made to sit around and look, you know, to offer feng shui to the Zerg's infrastructure. These are made to kill the Protoss, as are the 28 Lings behind them.
Oh man, still getting more Overlords, and this is actually going to supply block XiGua.
This is very nice damage. And I really like that he got Blink, and also is about to have +1 here. Blink Stalkers, like a lot of Blink Stalkers have been discovered very recently as being amazing against an army like this.
Yep, just got to keep that control up. A bunch of Lings are going to try and sweep into the natural base where they found success before, even being able to dive into the main. But this time, XiGua a little bit more prepared, and his focus can remain on the front lines here with the billion Ravages that XiGua has
lost
made.
one of the Archons. He's lost one of the Archons so far. There's still 5 Immortals here. Overcharged shield battery to hold that line with those Immortals. He's not in range to be able to bile down that shield battery, so that thing is juicing up these Immortals like it's going out of fashion. And the Protoss is just starting to continue to... I mean, they are just holding here, Zeph. I think the Zerg army is not powerful enough to break this position. Not right now, not right here. Can XiGua maybe pick a different angle?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting flashbacks here to the last series between Maxhead and Silky. It's a similar defense with those 5 Immortals. Charge on the way as well. And when Charge comes in, things get even worse for the Zerg. DT's being warped in as well. He can use those as is, or he can morph them into Archons again. Looks like he's actually going to go for the harassment option here. Even brave enough to start chasing down some of these Ravagers. Grabs the Overseer. Look at that.
This is very deliberate from Cyan. Picking off those Overseers means that the Cloak Boys can do work. That means that on their, as far as mobile detection goes, they're left a little bit wanting. There are, of course, Spore Crawlers and Queens and such back at home, but these Overseers need to be remade for him to actually deal with the DTs. They're going to be streaming into the natural, keeping the Zerg, making units defensively here as the Protoss is about to knock on the front door of that third base, Seth. And if he gets that high ground position, you cut off the fourth, you cut off the third. Zerg's going to have a tough time to dig the Protoss out of here.
That whole army went into the main to deal with those couple of DTs left over there as well. So this base is forfeit. There's no way that he's going to be able to save this with that many Immortals and Stalkers beaten on it. Sends these Lings in, but they dip out pretty quick. It looks like XiGua maybe trying to find some ways around this army to get a wraparound, maybe a counterattack even. But this army from Cyan is just so beefy.
It is. It's so much more powerful than the Zergs. He doesn't have plus to attack, but just the army compositionally is built to destroy, a big Road Ravager Ling force. A ton of Zerglings and Banelings here would be really amazing. Of course, we just got Cyan started stepping back. He's going to eat a bile or two, but he's actually just continuing to move forward and continuing to pick this fight. And XiGua is in a very awkward position where he's like way out on off creep and just trying to attack the Protoss and keep the Protoss away from his own home base. The Protoss has kind of been cut off from the natural somewhat. And recall is still on cooldown, so the Protoss actually needs to come up a ramp to fight the Zerg on the high ground.
Nice blink away from those biles there. Able to engage some of those Ravagers separate to the main army there. Bit of an awkward spot, like you mentioned, to push up in here, and he's having a bit of a hard time. Core goes down. 2 Immortals here very naked. They've got the shield batteries, which helps. One of those is overcharged. However.
Yep.
Oh no, the suspense.
The suspense. I'm not sure who that is, but I felt it as well. We had a bit of lag spikes. Hopefully it didn't come on your end, but I definitely felt the lag spikes on my end as some big spikes.
Yeah, I actually I didn't join the game this time because I was getting some spikes in the client. I was DCing, so I thought I'd play it safe. Now I'm actually glad that I did. We have a feed.
I'm gonna leave game and just go through the feed.
Yeah, we'll just be safe. Sorry about that, folks. We're about to restart the action here in just 1 second. Just trying to make sure that none of us are lagging the game.
I think we got to swing on back.
That's the bad outcome.
They did a countdown. They should be back to playing.
See if we can hop back into that game in just a second, or if we're still on a holding pattern here.
The game should be underway right now, like right now. So. Not yet? Okay. Need the admin
waiting on the admin powers.
It might be insane.
What a moment. Suspense building.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we don't want to lag the game. That goes without saying. So, insta leave. They said it was an English observer. So, it was either me or Zeph. And Zeph apparently isn't even in there. So.
Yep. Hopefully it's not our actual observer, because that's a little bit of a problem.
If we don't have an observer, that's gonna make things tough.
That does complicate things a little bit. But hopefully it'll be all good. Probably just waiting to make sure that the lag spike is cleared up before we continue, because it is a very tense moment here. So you don't want to jump back into it and straight away get hit with another lag spike and have to try and micro Immortals up a ramp against Ravagers in that. Wouldn't that be fun?
What if the pro gamers tell us about the game through contemporary dance? Because we don't speak their language either.
Yeah, man.
We could cast that, I think.
We could whack on one of those tracks off from the break and...
Yeah, from the freeware. Like the C-grade Kate Bush or the C-grade Goldfinger or... Ooh, game's back. Excuse me. Forget that contemporary dance. We're going to actually watch StarCraft. And
All right.
yeah, sorry about those technical issues, but we are back in. And XiGua, I think, maybe didn't expect the unpause. He's not happy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rough one. We could resume from replay again. Just to the point where that unpause actually happened. Looks like maybe the client is just lagging a little bit. I had these issues earlier. But yeah. So let's just take a second
we're bringing
here
back from the game
and
here.
reorganize that. You get to hang out with us for a little bit longer.
Yes, we're not super sure what happened, but the tournament integrity is incredibly important. We don't need players upset. Yeah. We don't need, any of the admins or anything upset as well. So we may do a resume from replay. We might just bring things back and play back from a few seconds in the past. I'm not sure if XiGua was actually ready for the unpause because he's just spamming question marks. Yeah, they were just spamming question marks. So you got to generally do a countdown and make sure everyone is ready, hands on the keyboard, ready to instantly play again. And we definitely, don't want to spring anything on anyone. I even get a little bit nervous when, when countdowns begin and there's been like maybe a minute since the player said go because maybe we're on a break or something like that and they need to wait for the stream to come back. And you don't know, in that minute, do they go and wash their hands? Do they go and get a snack? Do they go and get a drink? Like, are they still there? Just so nervous about tournament integrity, which we take very, very seriously here. So we're gonna have to go to a short break. And when we return, let's see if we can get a good spot happening here for game number 2 between Cyan and XiGua. Guys, don't go away. See you then.
Pressure's rising deep inside it. Feel the tension. There is so much you do to me. I could mention. I'm high, sparks fly, even when I touch your shoulder. I feel your heartbeat, and I wanna take you over. I wanna take you. There's something taking over me. Lust, what it is, what it is, what it is, what. Lust, what it is, what. Passion growing every time we feel inspired. On a mission, and I don't wanna till we're tired. 'Cause you've got flavors like I've never. I'm so hungry. I'm so sure that you've got just what it to satisfy me. There's something taking over me. Lust,
G'day, mates. Sorry about that snafu there in the game between Cyan and XiGua. What happened, just to give you guys the full skinny and the information that we have right now, is that, first of all, we had a mod bug in one of our games, so a bit of a technological mishap there, which we had to rehost the initial games there, which we did end up sorting out and fixing. So that was a bad start. That's not really anyone's fault, except for just, it's a bug, it happens. And then, unfortunately, there was an admin error just towards the end of that game, which we just saw before the break, where there was an unpause without a countdown, so the players were not ready. So we make sure that the admin knows all about that. That's not going to happen again. Obviously, again, just to reiterate, because I've said already 3 or 4 times, tournament integrity is incredibly important. This tournament is for tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of EPT points, and of course, is a seat in the season finals later on in the week, in the month. So this is, we make sure that everyone is in a comfortable spot, a fair spot, and lag-free. So also, Zeph and I are not in the lobby. We normally, just to break the fourth wall here, normally we're in the game so that we can have direct access to everything that we need to see to make our jobs as commentators easier, but we're going to have to cast off of a clean feed, which basically means that there are less people in there, so hopefully that deals with the lag thing, which is another thing we had, big lag spikes, and the admin will be able to make sure from now on, whenever we resume from a pause for anything like that, there is always going to be a countdown. And that will be the case from this place going forward.
Yeah, that's it. Just making sure that we're not the problem, because that's not what we want to be. So all good. And the players, I think, are just getting ready to resume from replay, and they'll be ready to go as soon as the admins and referees and everyone is ready to go. I think this is also a little bit rough for the players, right? Because you've got the rhythm, you've got that momentum, and they've kind of had a bit of a start here. So hopefully that doesn't affect their gameplay too much. Is a tense moment to have that happen. So as soon as that countdown finishes on the resume from replay, they're going to be plunged into a very important battle.
Correct.
So yeah, that's why the countdown matters, folks.
That's right. XiGua needs to be very, very ready for the fact that the game is going to resume, because as we saw when he wasn't ready, Cyan just moved through all of his stuff and just eliminated him. You could actually, in that position as XiGua, use, I still feel like his army is not as good as Cyan's that particular location, and Cyan will eventually break up there. It's just a matter of time. But with the magic of Ravager Biles, and there was a lot of Ravagers out there, you can zone back the Protoss for quite a while, and maybe with that, he manages to carve his way into the Protoss' natural and the main, meanwhile getting himself sorted for phase 2 on the other side of the map. It does feel like this is a make or break moment. I actually could see the game ending within 30 seconds anyway, after Resume from Replay, which I feel like happens a lot. I swear, all the times since Resume from Replay was introduced in Heart of the Swarm, I swear, every time we've resumed from Replay, the game has ended within a minute. Do you remember any time we've resumed from Replay and the game didn't end within a minute?
No, not at all. And here we are. It is that time where it looks like XiGua is actually going to make an exit here, which is a little bit better, I feel, for him to engage in, so he's not sandwiched between the army and the natural base. And there you go. I mean, you called it.
I called it. I called it. Like I said, it didn't look good for XiGua there. I feel like, unfortunately, you're kind of between a rock and a hard place right there. You go into the Protoss' infrastructure. Yeah, you'll do damage, but how do you get out? And then with the positioning of Cyan's army and the power of Cyan's army, you can just follow that army back if it tries to retreat and just kill it, which he did.
Oh,
and I think that was the quickest end of game after Resume from Replay ever. That was literally 5 seconds.
Yep. I don't know what else we could say about that game. Really weird ending, unfortunately, to how that all went down. But let's take a look back to how this series actually panned out so that we get a bit of a smoother view of the order of events. So Cyan did go for the Adepts and didn't find much success there. These Ling run bys definitely interrupting the rhythm there a little bit.
Yeah, this was a great start to this game from XiGua against Cyan, who I feel like is favored in the series. It was a really wonderful start. I was getting hyped for him. He did a great job at upsetting the Adept Printer build. He completely deflected that part of the game, but of course, phase 2 of the Adept Printer, which we're not showing here, we kind of skipped past that, really got Cyan back into the upper, he had the higher ground for prequel memes. He was looking very, very good. And this particular battle, I think, was XiGua's best chance of breaking Cyan. It's all downhill from here for the Zerg, unfortunately, because he's going to be taking counter damage across the map. And he is not taking very good fights. This is the last moments here from XiGua. Trying to escape. Cyan's army, too powerful. And I think that was the entire footage from that resume from replay towards the end there as well. So the army of XiGua, mostly Ravagers, a little bit squishy if I'm honest as well. Like the Ravager is very powerful, but it's a 100 mineral, 100 gas unit that's about as flimsy as a Mutalisk. It will die very quickly to upgraded Immortals and Charge Lots. So as we could see as he retreated, he got cut off by Cyan and just died immediately. Yeah. So that's going to be game. It's going to be game number 1 in the books.
Yeah, that was game number 1, wasn't it? My goodness, it felt like a couple of games there. But yeah, I think it's very deceptive how that Roach Ravager army works out. You always feel like you're so muscled up and you're ready to go. You've got infinite biles, you feel good about it. But coming up against 5 Immortals and shield batteries and force fields, it does complicate things a lot. So it kind of becomes an uphill battle very, very quickly, despite the amount of Roach that you have on the map. And you really are relying on some really good bile hits, or maybe even taking out those shield batteries. And we saw in that initial battle that he wasn't able to clean that shield battery up. So he kind of got into a position where one was dead, one was still alive. But even if it had have gone down, there was just so much there from Cyan. He just wasn't really going to be broken in that position. So yeah, and again, a credit to Cyan as well after the initial kerfuffle with the Lings in his natural and main with the Warp Prism. So yeah, an interesting game from 1 for sure.
Indeed. But game 1 is esports history. What we have right now is the esports present, and that is game number 2. And I do hear its countdown in the winds, which means that esports is just around the corner. We're about to be e-gaming even harder than we were before, hopefully with less lag. Now that the observers aren't a part of the lobbies, we're going to be casting from clean feed from here on out. Once again, tournament integrity is number 1 here to make sure the players have the fairest experience possible, even at the cost of potentially our casting being only 10 out of 10 instead of 11 out of 10.
Big claims there, big claims. Let's hop into Eternal Empire here for map number 2. Let's channel for a smooth game here in the bottom left. Spawning in the red trunks, this is XiGua.
Currently down the series, some moments of brilliance game 1. Hopefully we can pull them through for game 2. In the top right here, currently on match point, 1 map away from qualifying into the playoffs. He is Cyan.
Important to note as well, this is a decider for Group A. So a lot riding on this one. Cyan on match point, probably feeling pretty comfy right now. We have kind of picked him as a somewhat favorite to advance in second place behind Time here. So I think XiGua's got his work cut out for him. He's going to have to find a better pathway forward to get the win.
Indeed. I wonder what the play is for XiGua. Once again, because of the vetoes and the way things work out, I think most CVPs we're going to be seeing, we're going to be seeing Everdream, Eternal Empire, and Ice and Chrome. I think Ice and Chrome might be the 3rd map. We are on Eternal Empire, which is a much bigger map here. Does XiGua once again try and Roach all in or Ling all in? I feel like this is one of the worst maps for it to go for something like that. It's such a long rush distance, and no matter where you go, whether it's to the natural or the 3rd, you're going up a ramp. There's like you don't really get to fight on high ground unless you're going through, to the very north of this probe at 12 o'clock. There's like a high ground where you can swing around and attack into a 3rd base. But it's a choke point. It's like an absolute choke point, and it's defensively very easy for the Protoss to hold that kind of location. It would have looked, the battle would look similar like it would, that last attack from XiGua at the 3rd base of Cyan in game 1.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of roaches. My goodness. Hello, Zeph. A lot of Zergs play the Roach Ling Bane style on this map as well. And, that's had some success. I feel like Protosses have done a little bit better against it recently. I don't know if that's the answer for XiGua, because I have seen him play that a little bit. I'd kind of like to see him do a proper go at the mutas, because that's kind of what every cool kid is doing these days, right? And it has been quite effective, especially on maps where you have a little bit of room to dart into that natural base, for example, or swing round into the main and interrupt the flow of the Protoss.
You have a Stargate here from Cyan to start things off with. And remember, game one, if you can cast your mind back, was, of course, the Adept Printer. So Twilight Council Robo opening, Stargate opening, a little bit more similar to how Max Zed likes to play, but the Stargate is actually at home for Cyan, so not quite full Max Zed here. So the Stargate play usually means that you're going to be very safe. You're going to have scouting information for the most part, and potentially going to do some damage as well. But it does mean you slow down things like Twilight Council, like the robotics facility. And I feel like both those things are pretty necessary for Protoss eventually. Like, they're the thing you have to get eventually. You can't just Stargate the whole time. Even Rotterdam will eventually get a Twilight Council and a robotics facility when he plays DVZ.
Yeah, I think the flow of events here for Cyan tends to be into a third base. Maybe grabbing himself a robo and charge from there. There is actually an option to drop the Twilight as well with a Stargate opener. We've seen it on Eternal Empire a couple of times because you can hide like a pylon and a gateway towards, I guess, the south side on this map to where a potential fourth base would be, and warp in your adepts from there if you want to go glaive still. However, I haven't really gotten the view that many people are doing that in the Chinese scene at the moment. Certainly haven't seen in the games we've casted, but yeah, this is going to be panning out to be a bit of a different one again. XiGua sticking with this heavy unit style in the early game.
Yeah, it's almost like XiGua thinks this is still potentially a depth printer, so he's making a lot of links for it. He's getting his Roach Warren about when he got it last game as well, thinking there's a ground army, but it is a Stargate build, so I don't think we're going to be seeing too many Roaches here. I think he's going to go a little bit heavier on the drones, maybe try and use these Lings to try and cancel a third base or something like that. The Lings might get that Stalker potentially. 2 Oracles showing up the main, and they're actually picking off drones at the moment. 4 go down, 5 go down, 6 go down. That's a good bit of damage for those 2 Oracles.
Yeah. Not too bad. You can always swing back in later for another visit. These Lings are going to try and get the cancel on this third base, but with 3 Adepts hanging out with a shield battery, they decide that that's probably not the move right now. We'll keep those alive, and I'd love to see him keep active on the map with those, spread maybe some Lings out across common pathways, and keep tabs on what Cyan's doing. He does come in and zaps down 5 more drones right away. Very nicely done. Oh my god.
No, they're both on 1 hit point. They're both on 1 hit point. They both survive.
That's not allowed.
Unbelievably tilting. Oh my god. I'm surprised that this game hasn't disconnected because XiGua just pulled the PC out from the wall and thrown it out of his window.
I'd be calling the police right now for sure.
Yeah, call the police.
Unreal.
Jeez. Oh my god. That is an actual crime. We do have 3 Oracles here, and I think the whole reason why those 2 Oracles did more damage was because Cyan hid them, right? Like, he got 1 Oracle, and he hid it in the natural, and he's like, I'm gonna wait for 2, then I'm gonna go. And because, you know, XiGua didn't see any Oracles, he's like, oh, okay, this isn't a Stargate build, but unfortunately it was a bit of a misread. And the Oracles just showed up, he was not ready. He's gonna drop the Spire here. We are seeing the Twilight Council and a lot more gateways here, so I'm expecting him to go right into charge. Grabs that Revelation now as well, which is a cheaper spell now. It doesn't last as long, but cheaper to cast. So you can spam it a bit more.
Yep, things going pretty well for Cyan so far. He's very happily getting his third base up. These Lings consider for just a moment to go in on those Sentries and Adepts, but realize, probably not a great idea. Oracles are here as well. And yeah, so Cyan's just kind of taking it easy. Still got those Oracles to come back with for some more harassment. Looks like he might be dipping in again shortly. And in the meantime, XiGua going for a 4th base while that Spire gets closer to finishing here. We can see what he makes with that if he goes straight into Mutas. Have seen some people go straight into Corruptor, but I feel like Muta's just perhaps the better option here now. A bit more damage being done by the Oracle. Oh, loses one.
Well, he does lose 1 Oracle, but saw the Spire with a hallucinated Phoenix and has resumed Phoenix production, and that is bad news for XiGua because those Mutas needed to kind of catch the Protoss with his hand in the cookie jar there. They needed to catch him with his pants down a little bit with those Mutas to be effective. He's making 10, so that's a massive investment from XiGua here with his Mutas. He's even getting +1 attack instead of getting an 11th Muta. So he is super, super committing to Mutas. And if Cyan just keeps making more and more and more Phoenixes, and also he has access to Archons now as well, I don't see the Mutas doing a ton other than maybe some probe damage. But not enough probe damage, I think, to end the game.
And he's going to get his first taste of Phoenix action here with that Overlord getting picked off. And that's actually a good warning sign for XiGua as well to realize, uh-oh, he's caught onto what I'm doing for sure now. He's going to be making a few more of those. But that said, he's only able to make those Phoenixes one at a time. Aside from that, he doesn't have a whole lot of stuff to deflect the mutas with. So these mutas can still do a bit of damage. There are cannons ready. But let's see how much he can get done.
Well, shield battery in the mineral line with those cannons is going to excuse the mutas from the premises and also, you know, assist the probes in survivability here against those mutts. There's a shield battery in the main as well as a cannon, and the Phoenixes are on the chase. And the Phoenixes are also getting juiced up by the shield battery, and these mutas are not doing anything here, Zeph.
Oh, this kind of hurts to watch. He's getting +1 on this as well, so he's really hoping to continue to commit to these mutas.
Yep.
Oh, no.
He gets one Phoenix, but unfortunately, I think he lost about 60 mutas for that one Phoenix. No, I'm not. Of course, I'm embellishing. There's maybe like 3 mutas or so for that one Phoenix. Oh, 2 Phoenixes. Cyan. Oh, wasn't watching for a second there. Nearly lost all of the air units. Nearly. Not quite.
And a bit of a ground force happening here as well for XiGua, trying to hit in a couple of spots at once, using the mutas to back this force up. And he's actually going to go right on top of that army. There's not a lot of upwards firepower, however, with 3 Phoenixes left. Oh my goodness, look at that micro with that Phoenix from Cyan. He's able to chase down those mutas very nicely, and he does retain the 4th base.
Guys, XiGua is making a lot more mutas, but Cyan's about to outproduce air units. He's going to triple Stargate here. Oh my, this is going to be a lot of Fenoceans very shortly here for Cyan. And I like that XiGua is throwing in Corruptus here, just trying to make that +1 attack, that double down on the air units work out for him here. And I respect the tenacity. I respect the fighting spirit. But I'm a little worried for XiGua as Cyan gets a bigger and bigger ground army.
Yeah, me too. I don't hate the addition of the Corruptors. It does mean that the Phoenixes now have to be extra careful with engaging. I suppose the downside is that they're a lot slower, so they're not always with the party when you need them. But you just need to babysit those air units a little bit more and make sure they're where they need to be. Ooh, gets a snipe on one of those Phoenixes. Very nicely done. And he can still potentially do damage with this. Don't forget the Corruptors have their ability as well, so if he finds a gap, that could be a great move for XiGua to try and get a sort of foot back in the door here, because I think while he does have 4 bases, 5 coming up, he is struggling to get any real damage done here a little bit. Nice defense from Cyan so far there with the stasis traps. Muta's actually committing pretty hard to this.
Yeah, and the Phoenix micro, not too great there from Cyan for a second. He takes a fair bit of damage on those Phoenixes. The Corruptor's also doing a good job at zoning them and keeping them away from the Mutalisks. There are 3 Phoenixes at a time coming out for the Protoss, though, and Phoenixes build so damn fast. So again, I continue to reiterate here, Zeph, I get worried for XiGua the bigger the ground army gets for Cyan, because yes, mutas are very deadly. Yes, mutas with Corruptors can beat Phoenixes, but can he beat a bunch of upgraded Charge Lots, Archons, and Immortals? That I am a little bit less convinced by here for XiGua.
It is easier for Cyan to strike that balance between power in the air and power on the ground. She was relying very heavily on these lings to try and help him get that extra bit of damage happening here. And it looks like he's actually going to start getting some probes. Just really nice move. Oh my goodness. Absolute carnage there. But
really nice damage,
army,
but yeah, it's not for free. It's about to take some counter damage here.
This base forfeit. XiGua just leaves straight away with those drones, realizing he's not going to be able to hold it. He is going to focus on cleaning up this Zealot run by first. Does lose the Roach Warren as part of that, though. And now the 3rd base is in trouble. Looks like something's in the 4th base as well. This could be a little too much damage for XiGua, even once he's cleaned it up.
Yeah. I mean, the Muta's coming on in to get that ground army. The Archon's coming to assist, though. And even though that was a 4th Nexus kill and a ton of drone damage, XiGua needs to get rid of the ground army. Oh, that Muta control, the Corruptor control from XiGua. These Mutas actually might just be enough here because of the Corruptors assisting with the Phoenixes, as he has got a pretty decent drone count. The problem is it's a lot of drones, a pretty nice drone count, but only on 2 hatcheries. Actually, it's 3. One sort of awkwardly out to the 6 o'clock location. He's starting one on the bottom right, so it's not that bad, but it's still pretty bad for both players. Well, I think this is actually slightly better for Cyan.
Yeah, if you consider the main is pretty much done, and that natural that Insano just showed us is kind of half dried up. It's kind of on its last legs as well. It's not that much income, so he's still doing all right for the moment. It is going to be a little bit tricky, I think, to defend all those bases along the bottom if we start seeing more Zealot run-bys like this from Cyan. But Cyan also needs a moment to regroup here.
I mean, look at that Phoenix count. It did not take long for those 3 Stargates to kick on in. Fleet Bacon is still on the way here, which means that there's no Anion Pulse Crystals, no Tier 3 air units or anything like that. But do you need them? Continue to say that. I think all he needs is to continue to keep that Phoenix count deadly at a higher number like this, where he can actually engage Corruptors and win. And also start just continuing to make Charge Lots of Mortals and Archons. I think the ground army of Charge Lot of Mortal Archon would be really fantastic here. Honestly, I actually wouldn't hate for him to go into a lot of Blink Stalkers. I think that would be also really nice to have as just a standing ground force with a bunch of Charge Lots in the front line.
Yeah, I think if you look at the composition that XiGua is relying on, it's all that air. He's still investing a lot into Corruptors, and then it's kind of just Lings on the ground. So you're absolutely right about the ground army for Cyan, because if he wins the air battle, then, I mean, Corruptors are kind of dead weight if they're the ones that survive, and being beefier, they often do. And the ground army is still something that he has to deal with. If you've got a lot of charge lots in there, you really need the mutas to be focusing those down. And hopefully they're not busy doing other things in the sky at that point. So it looks like XiGua not quite able to mine from that bottom right base just yet. Still holding on to it for the moment, though, and still pumping more Corruptors and Mutas. Phoenix is trying to find any damage that they can. Does lose one there.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised also from Cyan to not see any upgrades on the Phoenixes just yet, but as we can see, Anion Pulse Crystals is done. He's outranging the Corruptors now, so with Perfect Micro, he can actually just trade for days against those as well, as long as he has map to move. And we are seeing Archons decimate those Lings there from XiGua. His ground army is absolutely, like, it's absolutely nothing compared to the ground army of Cyan. Cyan's got +2 attack on his Forge for his ground units, so they're also doing a little bit of splash damage. There's Archons in here, there's Immortals, Charge Lots. The Lings are just not a problem whatsoever. The only upgrades that XiGua has are for air units, and it's only +1, and it's only for the air units.
Yeah, he's still trying to take the odd fight here. The troubling part for Cyan, I guess, is those moments where he's chasing and XiGua suddenly turns around and is like, you what? And he might snipe a Phoenix or 2. But again, in here with the charge loss, looks like those will actually get some damage done. As XiGua is kind of pressing the issue here towards this 4th base, which Cyan would actually really like to establish.
Oh no! Oh no! XiGua is engaging on top of an Archon here. What's he doing?
Oh, looks like he managed to kill it.
Okay, Mutas did pick it off. A little worried there for a second. The Corruptors just took a ton of splash damage. Look how deep in the red they are.
Yeah, he can't fight here anymore. He needs to regen for a bit or get some transfuses happening. I'm not even sure if he has many queens available for that, though. Yeah, that could have been disastrous. I think he really just went for it. And not having a magic box there can really, really hurt you. And he's still just pumping Corruptor Ling, trying to clean up these Zealot run-bys. Both players aren't on the strongest economy, hovering around the 50 worker mark there. And this base is undefended.
Oh yeah, Ripperino drones.
Oh boy.
That's, yeah, and the charge lots have been finding the bottom right, and he's not even been spending that much money on the charge lots of the harassment either. Like those 3 charge lots that we saw on the natural earlier just killed everything in the natural by themselves without any reaction at all from XiGua, because he's been so focused on doing damage to Cyan. And of course, you know, XiGua's army is bigger, but it's all in the air, and a lot of it does not shoot down.
Yeah, this is one of those moments where the Corruptors are just not too great on their own. The Mutas are actually engaging the main army. There's a lot of Archons in there and a bunch of Stalkers too. And oh my goodness, there's a bit of carnage in the air army of XiGua.
Yeah. I do believe that might be all she wrote here for young XiGua, who's not really that young at all. As Cyan just took a pretty game-ending fight. And yes, that's 45 dead drones, by the way. 45 dead drones. XiGua is literally on a dozen drones at the moment.
I don't want to talk about it.
You don't want to talk about it?
No.
Sorry, Seth. You know what? Close your eyes and just keep chanting.
71 meters. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been pretty amazing for Cyan. It's been yeah, that losing that Nexus on the low ground, the Rich Vespine base kind of sucked. He lost a lot of probes, but the counterpunch with the Protoss was better back then. As we just took a little bit of time to process that. It was like, oh, is this good for the Zerg? Is it good for Protoss? Turns out, yes, it's good for Cyan, and we were correct with that. The Protoss is just shooting ahead here. XiGua is super, super far behind. He knows it, but he's trying to do anything right now because he knows this is an elimination map. He needs to win this map to get to the playoffs, and it's just not looking likely. Not anymore.
No, unfortunately, all the mutas have gone down there. I think the GG is coming out shortly here. Chases the Phoenixes for the moment, but he's stuck with this air army that can't do much more than kill Phoenixes and hopefully zap a Nexus or two. And he's just getting what he can done. There's actually nothing in the production tab for XiGua right now. He's just sort of floating around and soaking this in at the moment. Real unfortunate. I was hoping for a better outcome for him there, but